What's going on YouTube? It's Tom here and we're back with another video today. This is going to be a video on a topic that I've been asked about quite a bit, honestly. And instead of typing it out to everybody every time they DM me and ask, I figured I'd just make a quick video on it and talk about basically what we're going to talk about today. It's basically going to be why I prefer the Wicked Edge over the KME. And I put a poll up on my Instagram story last night and it was like 92% of you wanted to see a video on this, so I figured I'd just kind of make a video real quick on it. I've had both systems. In the past I had the KME first. That was my first real nice sharpening system, and then I moved on to the Wicked Edge here after the KME didn't give me quite what I was looking for. So basically I have experience with both, and both have pros and cons, and I'll kind of get into that here in a little bit. So first off, let's kind of talk about the things I like about the Wicked Edge more. First off is the solidity of the system. This is just a one-piece aluminum body, the blue piece is, and everything else just kind of adds onto it or bolts into it, and it's super solid. It gets clamped onto the table here, as you can see by the clamp. That's actually included in this system, which is super nice. It also has the 3 screw holes here. One's up underneath the clamp right now, but you can also screw this or mount this down to your workbench. That's super nice. The jaws are also super solid. If you guys take a look, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but there's 2 screws here. When you put your knife in, you tighten down this top one until you can't tighten it down anymore, and then you tighten down the bottom one. I like to go until the jaws end up parallel with each other. And by the time that knife's in there, it's not coming out. It's super, super solid. That's something I had an issue with the KME. With the KME, I thought the solidity had a little bit to be desired, since it wasn't something that you mounted down to your table or anything like that. And the way that the jaws mounted onto the base, it was a little bit wobbly, as well as the jaws themselves. When you put a knife into the jaws, if you didn't have it perfectly in there, especially on a full flat grind knife like a Spyderco, it tended to want to move around a little bit on you if you didn't have it in there perfectly. That's just not something that I've experienced with the Wicked Edge. Once you get it locked in there, it doesn't move whatsoever. So that's just something I really, really like about this. It doesn't take a whole lot of fiddling around to get knives in there perfectly either. The next biggest thing for me with the Wicked Edge is the independently adjustable arms. As you can see here, I can move each one of these arms independently of the other, whereas that's not the case on the KME. Basically on the KME, you set your angle, and then when you flip your knife over, that's the angle that's already preset. The problem with that is if you have a full flat grind knife like a Spyderco, and it's not sitting correctly in there, it's not sitting perfectly in between the jaws, one angle will be off a little bit more than the other, and basically you'll be doing more work on one side because one angle will be shallower than the other, and you have to reprofile a little bit more on one side. I just felt like reprofiling with the KME took forever because of that simple fact of the angles not being perfectly consistent every time from side to side. Now, if I have a knife in these jaws here in the Wicked Edge that isn't perfectly, like, let's say 17 degrees per side, I put my angle cube on here, I can get 17 degrees per side on this one, and then I look on this side and let's say it's 15, I can adjust this left side till it's 17, and then we have perfectly symmetrical edge bevels. So that's just I think that's a huge upgrade on the Wicked Edge over the KME personally. Probably the biggest thing to me is the repeatability of the Wicked Edge. So if you guys aren't really too familiar with the Wicked Edge, I'm gonna have to reach around my tripod here. It's gonna be a little awkward. But if you guys aren't too familiar with the Wicked Edge, when you go to mount a knife in here, you have this little key, this Wicked Edge key, and there's 2 sets of holes. The top set of holes is for knives that are less than 1 inch tall, and then the bottom set of holes all the way down, it's about a 1/2 inch or a 1/4 inch lower. That's for any knives that are taller than 1 inch. So basically when you reset your knife in here, you just use this key. The depth is the same every single time, and with that you get nice repeatable results. Even if the angle isn't 110% perfect like it was the first time, it doesn't take much reprofiling at all to get past that. That's something that's huge for me. I can plop a knife back in the jaws here, line it up, do the little Sharpie trick that everyone does, and get everything lined up, and I'm off and running. Normally, after I've sharpened a knife or reprofiled it for the first time on the Wicked Edge, it takes me less than 30 minutes to resharpen them all over again. That's through my entire progression, which is awesome. That just wasn't the case for me with the KME. KME, I was looking at an hour, maybe more. Maybe I just was doing things wrong, but for me, I just couldn't get as repeatable of results on that system. Another thing that's nice, even though it's kind of a wash, and I'll get into that a little bit later on in the video, is stone life. Because you have a stone for either side of the knife here, on the right and the left, obviously, each stone is doing half the work of what it normally would be on the KME. The KME, you have one stone, and every time you flip over the knife, you're still using the exact same stone, and your stones will wear out technically twice as fast. The stone life on these have been really, really nice. This is still my original set of stones. My 200 and 600 grit stones here definitely need to be replaced here relatively soon, but they've lasted me for almost a year, and I've sharpened a ton of knives on these stones. So as you guys have seen on the channel, anything that I've ever tested has been sharpened on this system. So another thing that's nice about the Wicked Edge Go, and I'm talking about the Go system in specific, by the way. The other systems obviously will have all the same stuff applying to them. They come with more stuff. The Go is like the basic system. The other thing that I like about the Go, though, is the adjustability. So you can go anywhere from 15 to 30 degrees. Obviously, the taller the knife you have, the more those angles are going to vary a little bit, just like the KME. The KME only goes 17 to 30 degrees, but there is that little trick where you can swap or flip the guide rod eye upside down. You can get lower angles, so it's kind of a wash there as well. But without having to do any of that kind of stuff, the Wicked Edge is able to go a little bit lower, and it has more variation. Although I haven't done anything outside of like 22 degrees. 22 has been like the highest I've gone. So the other thing that's nice about the Wicked Edge is you can't scratch the blade of your knife with the stones. That's something I had an issue with on the KME, unless you bought the little blade stopper thing. Because the knife blade is sitting facing upwards, if you slip off the stone going up, basically the stone just pops off the edge and you're not riding up onto the main bevel or the primary grind of your knife, which is nice. I scratched up a couple knives on my KME when I was first learning it, and then I had to buy the little blade stopper to fix that. And the last thing I prefer about the Wicked Edge over the KME is the base system is just more complete. So I think when I bought this, it was $200. I think it's $225 now. But what you get with the system is obviously everything that you see here. It's just the base, the clamp, the key, the wrench. You get a nice black Sharpie with it. And then the 200 and 600 grit stones, which is nice. That's really all you practically need for sharpening your knives and making them nice workable edges. You can add things after the fact, which I have done. I have the 800 and 1000 grit diamond as well, and then the 1200 and 1600 grit ceramics. But when you compare this to the KME base system, the KME base system takes some upgrades. I think the KME base is, I think it's $200 for the base system. You do get more stones with it, which is nice. But you have to, it's just the handheld portion. You have to buy the actual nice wood base separately. Like I said, you have to buy that blade stopper separately. I feel like they just leave out some components that are crucial to that system just to get more aftermarket sales from you, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. By the time you buy all those things, you're going to be close to the same price. But I just feel like for a buy once, cry once kind of thing, it's just nicer to buy one system and it has everything that you need to sharpen with. All right, so on the flip side, let's talk about things that I liked more on the KME. There's a few of those as well. The stone cost is definitely huge. I think the 200 and 600 grit stones are some of the cheapest, and they're like $80 for these two stones. It's like, don't quote me, it's like $75 I think for a full set of the KME Gold Series Diamond Stones, which is honestly very economical, and the stones are very nice, and they do last a decent amount of time. Like I said though, the stones here on the Wicked Edge last about double that, but we already talked about why that happens. But at the same time, if you look at the cost of the stones, technically you're getting 4 diamond stones here instead of just 2, so I can kind of see where the cost is. And if I had to say it, or if I had to choose, I think I'd choose the Wicked Edge stones over the KME stones. They seem like they're a little bit nicer. They last a little bit longer as well. The other thing I liked about the KME is all the stone options. They have everything. They have Arkansas stones, they have water stones, they have diamond stones, they have bonded diamond stones, they have CBN stones, I believe. There's so many aftermarket. They even have the Spyderco ultrafine bench stones for the KME. So there's so many aftermarket options out there. Since it's just a pretty basic, I think it's a 1x6 or no 1x4. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think it's a 1x4 stone. So a lot of companies out there are cutting those stones and making them easily available to the general market, which is cool if you like to experiment with different stones and different types of finishes and stuff. The Wicked Edge is a little bit limited because you have just diamond. I think it's just plated diamond, not even bonded diamond at the moment. It seems to be too expensive for some of the aftermarket companies to mess with the little, they call them platens here, to mount the stones on. You can buy blank platens and mount your own stones, but really who wants to do that, honestly? So if stone options are important to you, I definitely lean towards the KME. I think there will be more options coming soon to the Wicked Edge. I think bonded diamonds are something that they're going to have to add here relatively soon. If they haven't already, I know they just added like the 4,000 grit diamond. I think those are bonded, but I'm not totally sure. That's why I'm not saying for sure that they're not plated. I'm not totally sure. I haven't bought them yet. That's a pair of stones I'd like to try. The other thing I liked about the KME is that you can get down into the plunge grind of Spyderco's and other knives that don't have sharpening choils a lot easier. The little lip here on the side of the stone on the Wicked Edge definitely stops you from getting into the plunge grind. I don't know if you can see on my Maximet Native 5 here, but I haven't been able to get back into the plunge. There's a small, like, I don't know, 16th or even smaller, maybe 32nd of an inch area that I haven't been able to get into. That doesn't bother me too much, honestly. I can add a sharpening choil to that if I want to, but at the same time, I don't know, it's just something that has always bothered me a little bit. And on knives like let's say the Shirogorovs and stuff, with the way that their plunge works, you got to be really careful not to scratch the plunge grind. Just something to keep in mind with the Wicked Edge. The KME I also felt was a little bit easier to deburr knives on, just because of the way that the strokes are working. You're going into the edge. You can kind of be more finessey with it, I felt like. I definitely felt like I got, I don't want to say sharper edges, but it was easier to get crisper edges off of the KME just because of the way that everything deburrs. I've talked about it before on the Wicked Edge. I don't do those stupid forward, those heel to tip strokes, because I don't feel like those deburr very easily. I basically just do up and down, and then I lighten the pressure and lighten the amount of, or reduce the amount of strokes that I do when I'm moving across the edge to deburr, and that seems to work just fine. That's just something I noticed on the KME. Is a little bit easier to get crisper edges. The Wicked Edge has a little bit of a learning curve that I found. I think that's pretty much going to do it. I hope that kind of answered some of your guys' questions. I know I kind of advocated for both, but I can't really recommend one over the other, just because both are great systems in their own rights, and they both have their pros and cons. It's kind of something that you're going to have to make your own decision on if it's something that you're looking at. If your opinions are different, I'd like to hear them. Leave a comment down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear why you prefer one over the other, or maybe if I forgot advantage or disadvantage of either system. So anyhow, guys, as always, thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.